Today's coaching session is more about the changing seasons and what we can do in the garden and some of the things we can bring general health to as we work through our garden. And I like to think of coaching as one step in the direction of setting up for next year. Let's talk. Let's have some questions. I hope you guys have come with some questions. But one of the topics I'd really like to talk about, what seeds are you going to save for next year? At this time of year, it's really important to stop and admire some of the changing seasons and the flowers that are growing. I particularly enjoy our front garden because we've transitioned from summer and now we have this incredible blue sage, the Russian sage. We have the fall blooming asters. We have some beautiful Rebecca. And then there's the seed heads. There's the gorgeous that we were looking at earlier in the season. And look at these seed heads and they're gorgeous. And at this time, I don't like to disturb them too much, but if you shake them, you're going to get seed off of them. So look for things like that and walk through your garden and look at the seed heads and look at some of the bones of that. We have these beautiful green roofs that we've created for our birdhouse and for our various and sundry things that we use. And one of the things I always tell people is don't leave them there over the winter. They don't want to overwinter above ground. So we'll just lift this out and we'll plant it in the ground somewhere and it becomes the ground cover you see here. We've gradually over the years started to populate around the edges of the garden with our green roof from our green roof birdhouse. So if you're like me, you've acquired succulents over the summer, and I just love a mixed succulent pot. And I'm looking at these and I'm going, oh, these are so beautiful. So some of these can go outside and be left outside, but most of these have to go in the house. These are very tender annuals, so we do have to bring them indoors. So what I suggest with people, quite honestly, is you want to take them out and lift them and put them in their own individual pots. And every day, or every 3 days, you're going to turn it so it turns to the light and it doesn't stretch one way. We were so proud of our sunflower and it was doing beautifully. However, the squirrel discovered that it was ripened. But this is a really good chance for you to see the seeds that are developing, and that's how you know it's ready. If you turn it over and look underneath, you can see the ridges have formed and it's gone solid. That's usually an indication that the seed heads have formed. But if you were to pull them out, they're still really soft, but they're really great for transplanting. And I have discovered over the years that when they're at this furry stage, this is when I like to take them and put them in the oven and make sunflower seeds. They're delicious. One of the early indicators of frost is when your beans start to die. We had a little bit of frost last night, I understand, but not much. And look at these beans. They're still upright, they're still growing beautifully, and there's still beans. So I don't want to pull these yet. They're still a good indicator and they'll tell me when they're ready to go. So even if you do not get to a harvest stage, you can say, okay, now I'm going to pull some beans. And you go out and you clean them all out. The frost will take them down. And I like to just cut the tops off because the bean is a legume. It leaves good roots, gives you good nitrogen in your soil. At this time of year, there's a lot of unfinished chores in the garden, or at least as I walk around, I look at some of the unfinished chores. One of the disappointments to me, the male aphid has started to fly, and that is definitely an indicator of our cooler weather coming. And it also is an indicator that we're going to see a lot of the currant leaves starting to change color. These are a little anemic, but what they're looking for is an ideal home to lay eggs, and there's a few females and then there's eggs being laid into this leaf. Now what I look at is, here's an opportunity when you clean up this fall to make sure that you clean these all away and put them in your compost heap. The heat will break them down and we should eliminate a lot of the egg population. I am sure, like most of us, that you have fought the battle of the slug, and it seems to have been getting worse in the last 3 weeks or so. And if you look at our lovely collection of hostas, they have the usual holes and the usual climbing out, and it looks to me like the slugs are here. And when I look closely, I can see where the damage is, but they go to ground during the day. At this time of year, this is a good time as any to fight the slug battle. So what I like to do is I go around with my trusty 3-prong cultivator, and I pry the rocks out, and I turn the rocks up to the surface, and I'm looking to make sure there's no eggs. But if I look closely, I can see slime trail, and I can tell they've been under here researching. So what I do is I take my 3-prong cultivator and I loosen up the soil under the rock. And yeah, you're going to say to me, all my rocks are carefully positioned and I don't want to reposition them. But this is the best way to go. And then if you do it at this time of year, then you can just sort of put it back, and it will spend all winter settling back into its place. But in the meantime, you've disturbed the bed so that the slugs won't lay their eggs or overwinter down in there.